Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, George.
If we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes.
Please call to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good morning, everybody. We can start with introductions. I'm George Toppel, acting chair, Union Township trustee in Ford County, Indiana.
Jennifer Richfield, nursing, natural resources planning.
Okay.
Kathy Whitler, nursing environmental.
Laura Baum, nursing. Susan Mahalo, the Nature Conservancy.
Brian Lissick, Director, Indiana.
Bonnie Hawksworth, Town of Dune Acres.
Reggie Cortals, Indiana MS4 Stormwater Partnership, and a few other things.
Kevin Lee, Energy Staff.
Oh, Kathy Pierre and Highland Neighbors for Sustainability. Connie Wachella, ditto.
Sean Conley.
Kathy Sippel for Charter Indiana and Northwest Indiana Regional Zones.
You're a voting member, Kathy.
Oh, Sarah Duffy, County Water, Environment.
Charles Kreisky, Jersey.
Tom Vanderwood, nursing. Okay, and in conclusion, with the introductions, that is. First, meeting minutes. Okay. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the meeting minutes?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, a motion? Second. You have a second? Any further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Okay, public comments. Do we have anyone on the list for public comment? There is no one, so we'll move on to the next section, which is Sensible Tools Handbook, and how Sustainability Committee can use it. Kathy Luke, take it away.
So I wanted to present this, partly because I'm behind on the climate action plan, which you all know, and we'll talk about that in the next agenda item. But we've had several communities have adopted sustainability committees, commissions, some things, sustainable some things, and several elected officials have come to us at our commission meetings and said, well, now we have one, what do we do? So this is a recently completed document, Sensible Tools Handbook, that NERC finally approved. And there's a lot of tools in here that you can use depending on what you're interested in. So I wanted to just do a really brief overview of it. We did not get a million of these printed. We are getting them printed, but this is like the only copy I have. I can pass it around, but nobody steal it, please.
Can you send it electronically?
Yeah, it is on our website, and I do have it. It's my last slide, has the website address, so and you can download it.
I've seen it. Okay, thank you.
So, that was not right. Oh no, what button did I push? Wait, this one? No. Nope. I just turned off the things. I should not be able to touch the computer. What did you do? Thank you. I need not to click that. Okay. It would not be an EMC meeting if I did not mess up with it. Oh no, it's on closed captioning. Okay. So we adopted this.
Cross real quick. There you go.
Last fall, October, I think. So in 2007, we did our first Sensible Tools Handbook, and it was kind of an emergency response to concerns about urban sprawl and smart growth, and planning commissions or citizens who maybe didn't really know what was available to work on, in their community, to work on that. And so this is the 2023 update. We updated the 2007 version, which is still available. And then we produced a whole second volume, which is a lot more about best practices to do a lot of different things. And I want to talk about both of them because it depends on your community. The 2007 Sensible Tools Handbook was for plan commissioners, planners, zoning administrators, elected officials. It could also be a tool for citizens to review what their community is doing. There's just checklists about your comprehensive plan. Do you have a comprehensive plan? How old is your comprehensive plan? Does anybody read the comprehensive plan? That's those questions. There's questions about zoning, and how do you use zoning, how to use subdivision controls, growth management tools. That's what is in 2007. The 2007 handbook is now an appendix to the 2023 handbook, so if you download the entire thing, you will get both in one handy book. So planning and making sensible decisions. And that's that planning tool is going to be the most used for growing communities. If your community is completely built out or shrinking, the 2007 tools are still useful, but they're not going to make a substantial difference in sustainability because they're really focused about growth. So this is just a map showing two maps. The map on the right shows the communities that have either the dark green are high and increasing. Their population growth rates are continuously increasing. The lighter green, the population is growing, but it's growing at a constant rate. The light ones, I guess they're very pale green, are it's a positive growth rate, but it's growing slower, right? So it's all the ones in green are growing at some way. Some of them are exponential growth, some of them are kind of creeping growth. The ones in blue used to be declining in population, but they've recently switched to growing in population. So they're at a turning point. And then the yellow to red are decreasing in population. So pretty much if you're in the green or blue, the sensible tools, the growth tools, are one thing you can look at for sustainability. And some of them I'm going to talk about is density, and I'll talk about why that's important. But the very pale color is less than a unit per square mile. Nope, per acre. Less than a unit per acre. And the red ones have almost 7 units per acre, housing units. So that's the range of density of residences we have across the region. And these maps are from the land use chapter of the 2050 plus plan. NWI 2050 plus. And this is pulled from the land use chapter also, and this is kind of trying to talk about density, and why it's such an important factor for sensibility or sustainability. If the top row pictures on the right is kind of the way we're developing right now. About 65% is large lot, rural. Another about 18% is kind of more normal, like quarter lot density. Only an 11% of the region is in urban densities. If we continue to develop at that rate in the next 10 years, we will develop 40 square miles of land at the current growth rates and the current thing. The bottom row represents only 20% of the developed new residences going in that large lot density. That reduces the land developed to 16 square miles. So that's a substantial difference in how much green space we build on, and the other thing to keep in mind is a big part of the climate is vehicle miles traveled, is how much we travel and vehicle emissions. And the farther apart everything is, and the more people have to drive to do anything, that keeps going up. So, so the fundamental sustainable advantages of denser development is less driving and less land developed. But again, if you're a community that's already built out, you have retrofit opportunities, but this is the bones. These are the bones of your developed landscape. And once you put the bones down, it's really hard to change the rest of the body. Oh, look, I made the graphic bigger. I can see it better. In the NWR 2050 plus, NERC's adopted more or less the bottom design. We preferred alternative would be for development, only about 20% of the development to be in those rural areas, and even then conservation development where you cluster would be better than spreading them all out. Again, we proposed that as a preferred scenario. Local decisions actually make that happen. So in the category of how to use this, so if you go to Appendix C, that's where this particular version of the 2007 tools are. And this is just an example. There's a list of what page to go to talk about different things. And for example, page 168 has a checklist for using zoning to implement sensible growth. And then you would go to this checklist here, which is not to go through that list and see if your community's plan supports sensible growth, or if your zoning map doesn't support sensible growth. So that's kind of the concept is you can read a little bit about the concept, and then you get a bunch of lists to look at and rate where you're at. So if you get a high score here, you have a super sensible zoning map. Good for you. If you have a less than 4, your sensible growth, it's really hard to even have sensible growth. And you're going to probably have that really more of a sprawl pattern. So that's if you're in the growing communities. And it's still worth looking at if you're not a growing community, because there could be things that you might want to consider other things for sensibility. The majority of the book that I was passing around is much more, it's kind of like advanced. That's like planning 101. This is like sustainable planning, hot topics or something, or advanced planning. And I showed this highlighted. There's 5 chapters: resilient, healthy, sustainable, equitable, and smart. I've highlighted in green the sections that are most closely tied back to sustainability. So they're not always insustainable. It's a little bit arbitrary where they ended up in the chapters. But this is all these tools I have going put in is different things you can do, different examples, case studies, all kinds of information, tools, websites for all of these different topics. Hazard mitigation and green infrastructure, that's about flood resilience and heat islands. Healthy, air quality, it's kind of talking about air pollution, but carbon is an air pollution for purposes of climate change. Anything you do to reduce other air pollution will reduce that as well. Water quality and healthy sanitation, important for resilience and health. So, and then all of sustainable are tools that can help with sustainability. Again, this is just to show you that there's a lot in here. I'm not going to cover it all in this presentation. But I thought if you were going to start from scratch with your sustainability committee, what should we do first? You could start by building a huge plan. as we see by how stalled I am on the climate plan, that sometimes that's a really big task. And we talked a lot about in the climate work group, starting with some small successes to build momentum. So my suggestion would be to look through to pick a hot topic in your community, and then think about what are people talking about, what are people complaining about, and then look through for sustainability solutions to those problems. So, for example, there's if your utility costs are high, maybe solar is a good answer. Maybe it's water conservation at your wastewater utility or your drinking water utility. Are they treating a lot of water and it's leaking out because their pipes leak? That means they're spending money to treat water that they're not selling. So you're going backwards. You're going from the cost of the utility bills to conserving water, which conserves energy and saves everybody money. So that's that's the thought chain. You don't have to start at the environmental. It depends who you're talking to. What seems most likely for your community to get excited about? What's politically and economically feasible in your community? Sometimes it's not what the activists are the most excited about, or sometimes it could be. You just have to talk about it in the terms that appeal to decision makers. But of the whole book, page 30 and 31 is a checklist for you can get you can get certified as a green city, and there's 29 practices that green cities have to have so many checked off to get that title. And I thought this is a really good thing to start with. Like, you could go through these 29 things and see if any of them sound like a good priority. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff about building code or building incentives. There's stuff about transportation, transit. Then there's a whole section about planning, community forests and soils, stormwater management. Reggie, that chapter's for you.
Thank you.
Community engagement, green business development, renewable energies, local food. I didn't put all 29 in there. I just grabbed a few examples. So I feel like any one of these is a good starting point, depending on what is the most interesting to your community. Looking at our regional climate greenhouse gas inventory, there's industry, but residential buildings, commercial buildings, and transportation are the 3 highest carbon emitters in our region. And most communities have a pie chart that's some variation of those 3. So if you did transportation or buildings, you would be striking a blow at your greenhouse gas emissions while doing something else. So, and then I think I'm gonna walk through like one example of how you could use the book. So the sustainable chapter specifically includes urban forestry, wetland protection, farmland preservation, water conservation, urban ag, affordable housing, energy, and brownfields and redevelopment. And then some other tools we've done, urban forestry summaries for every community in the Great Lakes Basin, right? We didn't do the county, we did that. Okay, and the Lake Michigan watershed. So if you start from here and you've done look through the list and you're really interested in energy, under sustainable, there's a whole section about energy that talks about reducing consumption and conserving, shifting to renewables, transitioning your whole community. We have draft ordinances in the appendices for solar, for wind, and wind potential maps, and a lot of it is linked. So instead of recreating every tool out there, we put them all in one book. So you can go read about what the tool does and then check it out, or the plan or the process. Like, here's an example. Here's a solar-ready construction list. Are your building codes sufficient that people can build solar-ready, that a developer could build solar-ready buildings? Solar-ready building allows someone to add solar with, like, not quite with a plug-it-in sort of, maybe not exactly, but you can't, I don't think in Indiana you can require that, but you could incentivize it. But you have to have your, codes have to allow for that.
But that's the solar panel energy. And the issue there is the size and the place of those panels and the height off the ground. There's all kinds of issues involved with that.
The
as you
picture is
plan
a
it.
solar farm.
I
The
know.
solar ready construction is actually about rooftop solar and
Right.
new developments. I'm giving you a collage of sections.
I can see that. I can see this is a good collage.
So that was one example, but you have to be careful because electric vehicles are under air quality, not under energy. You might think it's under energy, so, look at the whole table of contents if you're picking an issue. So Appendix A, is, policies and principles, it's kind of the source material for these overarching sustainability principles, right? Multiple international, national entities that have overall policies and principles. So you could pick one of those, or it's kind of Appendix A showing all the examples. We didn't make this up here at NERC. This is not we are not in this alone. This is the whole huge groups, communities, organizations are all talking about this. Appendix B are model ordinances, and Appendix C is the 2007 handbook updated for new rules and regulations. And this is where, if you go here on our website, you'll find a whole list of plans and the Sensible Tool, 2007 Sensible Tools, and the Sensible Tools Handbook Plus are all around that page. And we have ordered a print, we are getting them printed. And the staff, we want to build out a whole training program that we can go out to communities or identify experts that would go out to communities. So if your sustainability commission picks a thing, we can find somebody to help you work through that thing. And it might be us, but it might be, if it's about invasive plants, I don't even know. I might ask Susan to come and talk to you. But that's where we are now here at NERC. Is how to build, what kind of training tools and what kind of presentations. Is it a speakers bureau? Is it like workshops? How can we help you use this or learn to use this? So I wanted to just put that out there. Kathy?
Do you have any support for grants, either a list of grants that might be available for cities to pursue or help writing grants?
I think some of the different sections do refer to funding pages. I'm not sure. That's a good idea to do a funding model.
I think the coastal program's gonna do it, IU's gonna do it, so we're gonna have some tools for you that you
Yeah.
can do that. One of the
We
things,
have, like in other plans, like I know in Greenways and Blueways 2020, there's a whole chapter on funding for different things. So we do typically put that in there. I just can't remember off the top of my head. I didn't look at each link.
what we were asked to do by the elected officials, if you're not familiar with what NISWAG is, it's the Northwest Indiana Stormwater Advisory Board. Those are every community in Lake Porter and LaPorte County that operate under the MS4 permit. We meet once a month, first Tuesday of the month, and we've been asked to put together some type of educational program, particularly some of the new mayors and elected officials, on where does a community start when they already have a charge to do ordinance updates as far as stormwater, and what the stormwater management can do and help with the overall, whether it's a stormwater master plan or a local master plan, so that communities can see what their choices are. So that may be something for our meeting. I'll reach out to you to help do, so we can present.
If you may I ask on behalf of the unincorporated areas, because we are looking at a overall plan in our community, do we have to, is the membership involved?
No,
To join?
No, you are in Porter County?
Porter County, Union Township, and Porter Township was also, right in the path of
I will just add you to the email list, and you're welcome to come anytime. Each meeting is geared to provide additional information to the elected officials and what they're doing. And IDEM participates a lot. We have DNR sometimes. INDOT is part of it. So, yeah, it's the first Tuesday of every month, and we kind of rotate around the 3 counties to make sure everybody can come. So, yeah, I'll add you, George. That's fine.
Thank you. We're looking at a comprehensive plan for all 30 square miles of the township, and that would be something that I think would be.
You lie within the urbanized map. And now that US EPA is not using the urbanized census statistics to designate an MS4, you're still within a county that's in the urbanized map. So at some point, you could realistically be included in having to do stormwater practices. So it's good to know what you have coming and plan for it. And part of your master plan then would have an element that is part of stormwater.
Does someone from Porter County attend the meetings? And
All the time.
who might that be?
Usually it's Amanda Vandenover, and she is their stormwater coordinator, but also, the engineer did, but he's not in Porter County anymore, so, we're waiting to see how that changes, but, yeah, and it's not necessarily a membership driven. Back when I was at IDEM, and NERC was working with the communities, they wanted to break away, so we started this group. And then when I retired from that, we kept it going. And so it's basically an educational opportunity. I want to make sure that every community knows what funding's available, what legal requirements are available. Purdue came out with a guidance document on creating ordinances that is excellent. So if you wanted to use that, we could certainly get that copy to you. But any one of your topics that you'd be interested in, if you let me know, we could do that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
On the area relating to like street trees, tree inventories, does it address at all, trees that you should like avoid because of climate change, or might be on the Indiana invasive species do not plant list, or maybe are not, sustainable?
So I did not memorize it. I mean, Joe wrote the urban forestry section, because that's kind of long it took to get this to you. But yeah, there's references to all those. Check your state for forestry planning list. Look for diversity. So it takes you to the right place to find that out. We didn't put all of it in. We said, do this, go here. That's kind of what it's designed to be a roadmap because there's so many resources. In 2007, all this stuff was not as easily available. And we tried to the extent practicable to find kind of Midwestern examples too. If it's not here, at least so if we're talking about wetlands, we're talking about wetlands in the Midwest, not wetlands in Florida, which are
Susan, we just had a discussion yesterday with IDEM. The watershed planning section, they have some new tools online. Take a look at them, and I haven't been able to go through it all, but I think there may be suggestions in there when you do a watershed comprehensive plan on trees and native plants and that kind of stuff. I haven't done it, but take a look. She said it's great, so take a look at it.
And this is kind of an aside, Susan, I'll follow up with you, but for the community tree program, it focuses on planting largely in street trees in urban areas in Northwest Indiana. We have a study underway with DePaul University, and they've been looking to inventory our trees and their survival rate. And I'm proud to say that across community and NERC community tree programs, we have over 90% survival rate, which is pretty high for urban forestry, especially in some of our communities that have challenged soils. But the relevant part for you is that they created a table that shows survival by species. And so I think it was really eye-opening for me. We want to plant for diversity, but we also want to plant what's going to survive. And to your question about what's climate change, I think it's really relevant to see which types of trees are thriving as we actually plant them in our region.
I'll follow up and send that to you. So I really wanted to bring this out today, especially because we have the Sustainability Commission's forming, the efforts of NWR Resilience, and to get that done has been really amazing. And I'm going to talk next about some of the different climate grants and things, but there's a lot of climate stuff spread throughout this plan too. And then so we have the toolbox, and we have kind of the problem, or don't quite have everything on paper yet, that's us, but it doesn't mean we can't do it. And it doesn't mean we're not still trying to help, and this is taking a long time to get finished is part of the reason other things delayed, so, because it started first, so.
Kathy, it's an excellent tool for communities to get started.
Yep.
Porter just passed a ordinance that develops a sustainability commission. And so when all these people get together and there's new people there, people maybe that have never been involved before, this gives them a guidance, and it's a place to start.
How you would ask about,
You're here. Jenny and Tara are here from Gilbert.
Yeah.
Kevin, you spoke to grant writing, and I will say, we remain challenged in the capacity to help with a lot of grant writing. I mean, I'm challenged in capacity to write grants that we need. and
Maybe not writing,
Yeah,
but
that's
just
helpful. Yeah.
aggregating the opportunities as they come in. Because I've been asked to point people to that, and that's just a little bit beyond my bandwidth to like
Yeah.
get them as they're coming in and get them to the right place. But I can help, we can put those on our website.
So the Urban Waters Federal Partnership, they put that out monthly.
Urban Waters puts out a monthly
Yeah.
newsletter, and it always includes a pretty extensive list of funding opportunities. So that coordinator is tasked with particularly federal grants, but there are other grants as well.
And I think that Drive Clean does a lot of that for air and kind of the vehicle alternative energy space. So I feel like if you just follow those two entities and check there, you get pretty much any grant opportunity
And the Lake Michigan Coastal
from the
Program.
coastal program for.
When Maggie was at the coastal program, she developed that comprehensive
Yeah.
list of grants. I don't know if they took that up or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We used to try to do that, and it became duplicative. It doesn't make sense for everybody to do that, and I think that Victoria and Urban Waters is very comprehensive, and I know Drive Clean is very comprehensive.
Especially with all the new funding opportunities that are coming out, it can be overwhelming and hard to keep on top of.
So we will keep
And
you guys,
I know that Victoria is always willing to sit down with people,
and yeah,
you know, to go through grants
she
and
can't
opportunities.
write the grants, but she can help you a lot with
Connect
readiness.
people.
And Green Fleets is a program for anything to do with vehicles, fuels, that is focused on grant readiness. Okay, you know, they can't literally write the grant for you for free because you can't do it with federal funds, but they can get you very far along the process. How many, Tom, do you know off the top of your head how many copies of Sensible Tools we're having printed?
I think the plan was just for 41.
Oh, for the
commercial, just for municipalities.
Yeah, but we'll be rolling out educational programs, and you can download them.
Well, it's online.
Yeah, and it's online. So, if you
So
have
if we
any
wanted to
questions or
print them
thoughts.
ourselves and if we wanted to have them printed ourselves for
Yeah,
whatever.
it's all
purpose-
government
okay.
literature, you may certainly do that, it's not copyrighted. Oh, maybe we should do that, sell it, no, I'm just kidding, I need to have a bake sale. Tom?
The good thing about the online version too is that all the links that are in the document
Oh.
are active, so.
Okay.
you know,
It's actually better, you can
if
click
you're
through.
copy, you wanna go look something up, you gotta type in the link, but if you go electronically, you just click on it.
Yeah.
Well, what I was thinking is putting it on a USB drive and give everybody, it's much easier to buy USB drives and pass those out to everybody.
Penny?
I know that there are towns and cities have, appointed members to the county executive or the board.
Mhm.
But is that true of the counties? Is there a Lake County
Yes.
commissioner? Or
Each county has 3 voting members of the commission, their county surveyor, that's a countywide office, 1 county council person, and 1 county commissioner. So you have 3, a county has 3 votes.
do you know in Lake County, the commissioner or the council member?
Oh,
Kyle Allen.
Let's know that's bad.
yes.
Kyle Allen.
Kyle Allen
And
is
Bill
the
Emerson, the
commissioner.
surveyor. You'll get a
Bill
lot of
Emerson is the
results when you
surveyor.
talk to Bill, a lot of information.
I'm not, so I think the council was getting reorganized, so they didn't appoint a person for this year yet.
How many NERCs are there in the state of Indiana?
14?
How many?
14?
So how close are you guys to being on the same timeline for your sensible tools plans and for your 5-year transportation plans? And the reason I'm asking is, could the 14 of you figure out a way how to put together an educational program that a legislator could watch? They're not going to attend, but could watch. Because there's a lot of good information in this that, not that it would change a lot of rules and regs that are going through, but it's very difficult to provide factual information to legislators. There's so much social media influencing versus factual influencing. And your reports are very full of facts and a lot of pages of facts, which is good. But I'm just, I bet you if I were to ask 10 legislators that I just randomly pick in Indianapolis, they wouldn't know that you guys are doing this. They probably don't even know that there's 14 FBOs in the state.
We, so this specific one, we did this work, but we did it in some conjunction with Purdue has a planning center because of the extension. They have a planning training thing. So this is intended to be a statewide handbook.
It is.
Yes, I have not had enough coffee today, so I'm having a real hard time putting names on
LTAP.
groups. No, it's not LTAP, that's Purdue Transportation. This is Purdue Extension has a group dedicated to planning and training. And are you looking it up? Is that why you had the book in front of you?
I mean, I don't know the particular.
Okay, we worked with them on this, and they intend to use this as a statewide tool. For that, I think different MPOs are on totally different long-range planning cycles, so.
I think that's a good point, because right now, if we don't reach out on this wetlands issue, we're gonna be in trouble. So we need to pay attention to it, and you couldn't ask a legislator to go through all of this, but if we could pull the wetlands issue out and say, look at this before you vote tomorrow, for God's sakes. And I like that.
Oh, you missed the train on that one.
Perhaps you can contact your individual legislators.
At this stage of the game, with this being a short session and they're halfway done, I mean, next week is, they gotta flip houses.
Well,
Yep.
You're not gonna influence,
the meetings that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
They
but
have a
going
national-
forward.
They have a national meeting that, I'm not aware of the state meeting. Well, actually, we communicate frequently with Southwest Michigan and Illinois, and I'm not sure if there is a state meeting. Is there, Kathy, do you happen to know? No? State
sorry?
meeting, is there a state meeting of the regional planning?
So there's yes, the Indiana Association of Regional Councils, and then there's the MPO Council. So, because some organizations are a metropolitan planning organization responsible for transportation planning and dealing heavily with INDOT and Federal Highway and FTA. Some regional organizations are councils of governments, or like the entire state, there's a couple weird exceptions, but is covered by these regional planning commissions. And they do have an association, and they're more general. A lot of them help in the rural areas with OPRA grants. They help smaller communities get RLF, revolving loan funds for wastewater treatment and stuff like that. So we've always been so focused on the MPO function, and that we haven't developed as many of those capacities as some of the others have. And it's largely driven by Facebook.
I'm sorry,
Mhm.
finish up.
I'm finished.
Okay, I just want to add on to what Kate said. Even though we think it's a lost cause, this legislative session, we still need to keep the pressure on. So people still need to contact their elected officials, especially in the Senate, because the bill, House Bill 1383 is going to the floor for a vote. We need to let those elected officials, especially in Clear Lake County, know where we stand on these issues. We cannot let up. We have to fight to the very end. So I'm just
We're
inviting
YouTubing this, aren't
everybody to do that.
Well, I can tell you that from the regulatory standpoint of stormwater and all, there are 225 municipalities in the state. They are all contacting their legislators on this bill.
We all
So,
need to- we all
yeah,
need
who's
to
your
do that.
environmental council, everyone, if they're not listening, don't vote for them again.
And
Well-
tonight there's a green drinks that's specifically on what's going on in the legislature right now. It's at 6:30 p.m. You can join via Save Virginia's Facebook page live, or I posted on my Facebook page how you could join via Zoom. We need full court press, and I can't put it up.
Can I offer some advice for a full court press? You have to have something that's 2 to 3 paragraphs maximum that gives them definitive basis for your ask of them to oppose or support a bill. If you don't have something that's, and that's where I'm thinking the strategic tools probably has a portion of it, or sensible tools, I'm sorry. They're not keeping a score as to how many yeses they get versus how many noes they get. The only thing that's going to, not the only thing, the predominant thing that will change a legislator's mind on a vote is the provision of written material that provides firm facts and explanations.
The Hoosier Environmental Council's done that, and it's short and it's sweet,
Mhm.
and it also explains that here is the negative bill, but also we have some positive bills here that you need to look at. So, and that they have a full court press on that, so hopefully,
Well, there were 24 persons that testified yesterday in the
Yep.
Senate Environmental on the bill. And I know that I've heard these phrases so often that I don't think about them, as far as, flood control and water regeneration and, But you need to understand that the legislators sitting around a committee table, they don't have necessarily background in the topic that's being presented to them. So flood control, that's very difficult to perceive what a wetland does to control a flood. It's very difficult for that perception. I'm just sharing without getting myself in trouble. Some of the observations that I've made over the past couple of years concerning any bill, as a registered lobbyist. I mean, I've had doors closed in my face. I've had doors opened because I learned that, if I come in with more material that they can digest and have in their hand, and then when I leave the room, they give it to their LA and say, okay, you read this, you digest this, you tell me what it is I'm thinking about. I mean, that's successful. If you walk in as a group of individuals, introduce yourself and your affiliation, and you don't leave anything behind that is short and sweet, sadly, you go into a column, yay or nay, as far as the words offered.
I really appreciate this tip. And some of us are going to, indeed, to talk to legislators about Renewable Energy Day. And so Kathy had asked the question, how do you think we can use this to give valuable information to these people who don't seem inclined to want to do community solar? Do we in take Indiana? it on a flash drive? drive? Or are we better off doing paper? Paragraphs? I mean, and what suggestions might anyone have for us?
I don't have time to read NERC's report, and I'm in the environmental field. So to give how many page document is your 2050 plus plan? I would love to be able to read through that. So giving a thumb drive with that volume of a document, they're not going to know where to go to look to find your points. So you need to pull them out, have them, and you can reference what document you got them from, but they're not gonna flip through a thumb drive, page after page to find
I
your.
mean, I think there's resources. When we did a solar ready project, I have one-page fact sheets about solar, specifically designed kind of for education purposes, but they're 10 years old. And I think if you went to Solar United or the solar, what is the solar?
Solarize.
No, there's a Sun Ready, but there's a designation for community. Anyway, they have a lot of tools. So I think
SoulSmart, is that?
SoulSmart, yes, thank you. That's what Solar Ready turned into SoulSmart.
How do you spell that?
SoulSmart, SOLSMART. That sounds bad.
So smart.
I think they're gonna have some education pages that maybe you can just download a couple of talking
Yeah.
points.
When
It's-
you create that, make sure that you identify, the facts could be facts that are applicable across the country, but you want an Indiana version of that, and you want it, what, at the top. You know, this is what's going on in Indiana, this is what's going on in your state and in your community, and they'll pay attention to that. So make it one page, make it short, and have your, points right there. And you can always, like, in the book, you could have the link, because they do, there's no doubt, that it goes to their aide, it goes to their staff, and they'll go and read it, and that's what you want to be able to do.
Yeah,
Is there
if I
any-
could say also, Zach Schlatt with Solar United Neighbors Indiana, he has those materials ready.
Yeah.
Okay?
Good.
So they're available online. They also just had a training session not too long ago.
We
where
just
they were
went to
talking
that,
about
yeah.
being down in Indianapolis.
Hey, I
And
hate to
they
interrupt, but if we
they
could get
recorded
back
that.
on track, we could come back to this later so we can get through the other
Yeah,
items.
I'm sorry, but
Well,
they-
that's okay.
They recorded
It's
it, so
good,
you
good
can-
conversation. It's just that if we get through this, then we can come back and talk, or we can stay later, whatever you prefer. But so we can get through the different reports.
And
Thank you.
maybe I did not think of this, maybe we can get a bunch of flash drives and put this on flash drives for the, because there's links on the solar section of this sensible tools to various, all those resources. So you get to the one page in the plan and then you'll find a bunch of links.
Okay, and Kathy, would you like to go to,
Yeah, item 6.
number 6?
Yeah, so as many of you know, on our climate action plan for the region, we had to pause to pivot to the NWI 2050 plus, and candidly have never recovered back to the plan. I work on it and then something else happens. So, but I wanted to let everybody, in case, I'm sure everybody's following this, but there are a lot of things going on right now, and so this was sort of to do an update on all of those things. I wanted to give you, so the state is doing the EPA climate pollution reduction plan. And right now they are in the end, kind of on the end stages of developing their priority climate action plan, which the priority climate action plan identifies the measures that are eligible for immediate implementation projects. And there's a huge incentive for whoever's developing said plan to really narrow down those priority actions, because you have to do a ton of calculations. You have to do a bunch of workforce readiness, you have to do economic cost and benefit, you have to do a lot of stuff for every single one of your priority climate action plans. You have climate actions. You have to do it for all your actions eventually, but you have 2.5 years to do the comprehensive climate calculations. You have until March 1st to do the priority ones. So I wanted everyone to see that there's a few pages in the packet that are the original list of all the activities that the state had on their action list. And then if you look to page, the last page, page 9, these are the ones they selected as probably their priority actions. And I think that's what the meeting in Gary tonight is about. So, these are the ones that will be the state, eligible for state implementation, and in general we'll have, so there's going to be a lot of, I want to say, work behind them, even if you don't get a grant, if you want to initiate this in your community, there will be a whole bunch of workforce information, there'll be a whole bunch of cost benefit information developed on it by the state. So, the state is submitting one large grant for any local government who submits a project, and actually private sector can submit a project, and non-government could submit, or nonprofits could submit projects. The beginning of those were due technically February 15th, but it was a suggested due date, and I think they are taking rolling until February 15th. That's a hard cutoff, nothing new. So if you still think there's a chance to put something, what? February 15th is their hard cutoff date, because they have to submit the whole application to EPA on March 1st. So they need to know exactly what they have to calculate all the math. Now that Kay has helped me write a brownfield grant, she actually knows how hard it is, because then you have to cram all that math into like 2 paragraphs. Okay.
30-page guidance document for a 5-page portion of the grant.
Right.
Yep. So anyway, these will all be in the state plan. Everybody is eligible to apply within Indiana for any of these practices. They have one industrial category, and I know we worked hard to try to get some of our industries to look at this, because that's our highest category. So the other thing that's in here is the beginning of the PCAP for the Chicago region, which starts on page 15. Of the 15 of the packet, or 15? It's page 10 of the packet. I don't know. Anyway, it looks like this: Greenest Region Compact.
Yeah.
That's the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus of Chicago's Climate Action Plan. So they're starting with their actions, and then we need to add anything else that's important to us. I say I, it should be we. No, we need to give them some that we think are important to us. So I'm going to draft some language for an industrial energy use. And the other one that's notably absent so far from theirs is anything about diesel engines, like trucks and trains and ports. So, but I'd really like input on that, and I haven't, yes.
Okay, at one point in time, with the climate pollution reduction grant discussion, there was a lot of concern expressed to me from Indianapolis about working with Chicago, because that crosses state lines, and EPA didn't have a way to manage that. Is this?
This is not about.
Is this part of the climate pollution reduction grant?
This is part of the planning grant. The plan. So there's going to be two.
If we give Chicago examples of Indiana reductions for Northwest Indiana, they can't be in the state of Indiana's application as well.
No, but they could apply independently on their own. Anybody can apply. So these implementation grants are competing against every city, community, and state that's applying. It depends on how much you ask for. So everybody who asks for $300 million is competing against everybody else who asks for $300 million. So then it's about who's getting the most carbon reduction for $300 million, and the low-income diversity benefits, and the project readiness, like does EPA think you can actually do this? So the least you can compete for is the $2 to $10 million pot. So if you have a $2 million project, you're competing against everybody on the planet's $2 million project. That is an exaggeration to those watching online. It is cities and municipalities and counties and councils of government and states that are all competing. So, so I think there's a misunderstanding. There is not an MSA implementation project or implementation grant. It's just that anyone within the MSA, which is Chicago, Kenosha, Lake and Porter County, Jasper, Newton County, yeah, that's, and then a bunch of counties in Illinois. anyone can apply for an implementation grant to implement a project in the Chicago MSA Priority Climate Action Plan list. In Lincoln Porter County, we can apply for anything in the state Priority Climate Action List or the Chicago MSA Climate Action List. We can
Okay.
apply, but we apply to EPA. We cannot apply to IDEM for anything on the Chicago list, but we can apply to EPA for anything on the project list. Is this as clear as mud to everyone?
What is the what is the success rate of us working it with a cooperative agreement with the Chicago region?
I have not had strong success rate
That's what I
in the
thought.
past few years.
Okay.
I initially considered putting together a NERC region implementation grant, and I'm still thinking about maybe in the diesel space, since it's not on the state list. The lift on this, the economic analysis needed for this is heavy lift for a small shop. If you have I think if you're working with like a Purdue or a IU to help you, maybe they have people that can do that. It's a heavy lift. Or if you have like national associations or something helping, I'm sure there are national associations of that have tools to help people put these together.
So that's what you're asking then?
Um,
That NERC, you don't have enough staff to do this? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm asking if there's any projects that people think if there's interest in applying for projects to EPA, for projects that are not on the state's list, then we need to make sure they're on the Chicago MSA list for them to be eligible at all. That you can't do a project that's not on one of these priority actions.
Okay.
So I'm looking right now for priority actions, but it's kind of late in the game to put a project together unless you already had a project lined up. I'm personally putting together a van pool proposal for the state's application under the reduced vehicle miles traveled thing, and I got it in.
What are some of the other projects in Indiana? Do you know?
I do not know. Do you know any, Ryan?
There's,
Well, NIPSCO, I think,
there's NIPSCO, we put it in about 25
projects.
to, I.
Okay. 25 projects.
That figures. Does your dad work overtime?
This is a crazy idea that I thought about, and I'm sure you have too, and that is, why don't you kill two birds with one stone and put solar on brownfields?
I actually, I wanted to actually do that as a project, and then I started calling around to different, Superfund sites and things, the person who owns the property, whether it's the owner of the Superfund, they're all, even though EPA has a whole website about this, they did an analysis of the potential of all the corrective action sites and Superfund sites. The owner or operator of that, everybody's afraid it's gonna mess up their record of decision and open them up for something, and so, it's very challenging.
Yeah, I noticed it wasn't much listed here.
No, I really thought that would be transformational. We were what would be transformational in the region would be to take all of our Superfund and RCRA sites that are to our detriment and turn them around to our advantage and make them all solar farms. It's not like a one-stop shop. It's like a lot of them.
I just want to say that Kathy and I routinely will cry in our coffee together over how things get presented to the public by EPA versus the reality of what they talk about that the public hears. And, the solar on brownfield was a prime example because, as Kathy said, the record of decision on a Superfund or a CERCLA site, thou shalt not break that cap. Well, you're not going to put anything on there that has to be tied down to the ground without breaking the cap.
Right.
And just for shits and giggles, getting from, oh, you're a bad piece of property to a record of decision is decades. So here's John Q. Public thinking that a you know, a solar field can go in on that nasty property that's just been sitting vacant for years. And I mean, start to finish, you're still looking at another 15, 20 years. And it's very aggravating and frustrating that is happening.
Ooh, we need a solar farm on a flatbed. So you're just parking,
Oh, we did solar.
there's a lot of
A
places where
mobile
there's
solar
like,
farm.
there's cargo boxes sitting around in a lot of places. They're putting a flatbed out there. I just made that up now. That is not a real project. I just thought of it now. It's a little late in the game. But really what I wanted from all of you is input on missing practices, missing activities that didn't make items list, that you think would be of interest in your communities, in your companies, so that we get them into the Chicago one so that they're eligible. But the whole thing is that those are due, projects are due April 1st, the grant submissions, and the PCAPs have to be done on March 1st. So they want us to load the PCAPs with projects we're already working on. So I know we're late in the game on this. This is the first meeting we've had here really to talk about this. But
And just from an FYI, the item started presenting to my industry group on this in October of last year.
yeah,
So my industry guys have been talking with ITEM about projects that they already had in their pipeline that could provide, you know, reductions. So just as an FYI, our industries already have projects that they were planning to do, talking about with ITEM to put into this. But it's very challenging for an industry to get a grant or to utilize grant dollars. Their finance departments are not set up to do all the procurement stuff that sometimes EPA throws at you and things along that line. They have pre-existing contracts with consultants and contractors. And so if you don't see a lot of reaction from an industry to a grant opportunity, even though someone else is receiving the grant money and might not have the same trickle-down requirements, it's not that they're not doing something that would qualify, it's not something that they need the federal funding process to get accomplished. And that's frustrating. ITEM yelled at me.
and I think that this has been so confusing. I spent a lot of time on this, and I didn't really understand until maybe a month and a half, a month ago, how it really worked. There's still confusion. IDEM is confused about what are we applying to the MSA? No, we just need to put it in the plan. Everybody's applying to EPA. So it's confusing, and it's also still hard to think. You want to think outside the box. Solar on brownfield. I was like, that's it, my life, but we're going to do that. And
I can testify
call all
to
your
that.
friends. Okay, call all of your brown friends, and we're going to do this.
And they shot us both out of the air.
Yeah.
Solar is bike
I thought of that too. Solar is parking lots. That's more expensive. You have to build an infrastructure.
I
The
think
thing I
it's
really liked about this was rebates. I thought, a community could apply for a grant to give energy efficiency rebates to homeowners or businesses. But and I've thrown that idea around, I've emailed it around, I've put it out to people, I've announced it at the commission twice, I've announced it at the technical policy committee 3 times, and I don't know that.
Well, there's
But
a grant.
it's a good example, how you can't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
If you're a municipality and you are now just starting to do sustainability planning or comprehensive planning or whatever, you've got to plan for what your community needs, not what money's out there.
Right.
Once you get your plan together, then you start looking for the money.
Right.
And the money's there once you have your actions in place. So they look at the Sensible Tools Handbook, you look at what's going on in your community, you put a plan together, and then you say, where's the money? And the money is there.
And I would say also, in fairness to all of our local governments, we had a lot of elections this fall.
Yep.
And so this rolled out this fall. And if you're a community that's probably going to get a new mayor, how much effort are you going to put into a grant project? you know, so now that the new mayors are here, they're maybe getting their feet wet, and now, oh, this is due in a month, you know, so timing is everything, and the timing on this is really rough.
One of the things, Susan, that came up in the Lake Michigan Coastal Program, the feedback from all of the applications that went in for grants is that so many people, sitting down and writing a grant is not difficult. What is difficult is managing that grant. So we're going to put together a 2-day workshop for municipalities on how to manage a grant. And IU is going to do it. I'll teach it, and one other gentleman that is a grant writing professor. And you'll come in, and then hopefully we can get some type of certification for you or something through the outreach program. And it's just going to be 2 days, and you will learn, because that's the key. And the coastal program said that we can, if you don't manage your grant, we're not going to pay you because it's a payback grant. And so teaching that is going to be important, particularly now with all these new elected officials.
So the nutshell of all this is, if you're going to the meeting in Gary tonight, or you are going to submit comments to item on the PCAP, you can take a look at their draft list of all the practices they started with, and their final list of practices that is on the page 9 appendix, or attachment, and provide them comments about that. Oh, we wish you would have put this in as a priority. And then also, if you think there's something that we could put in the Chicago MSA priority list that we haven't already thought of in the draft climate action plan, that we, please let me know. I'm going to be reminding that. Yes.
The meeting tonight's on YouTube. Does that automatically mean it's recorded?
It's not one of ours.
I know it's not one of yours, but you
I do
YouTube
not
guy.
have, I do not have.
They record
Yeah,
them.
they record and post all the other ones.
They recorded it. You can look at all the previous ones,
Okay.
yeah. So for example, we want to make really sure that the diesel measures get in the Chicago MSA, PCAP, and I've already talked to CMAP, and they're working on that. And then we're still, Ryan and I are talking back and forth. California has a program where they could give, if somebody goes buy a new diesel truck to the dealer, the dealer gives them a rebate of like, what, a lot of money to get a new truck, new engine. But that's a whole state, and I can't imagine how much bureaucracy they have behind that program to make it run. And
I have a question on the diesels. Most of the unincorporated areas and a lot of the places have volunteer fire departments. They have diesel. Is there some way we can target the volunteer fire departments to give them more information of how they can follow up with it? Some way we can help them figure out where they can get these. I know they're always looking for grant money.
Right. So I had submitted a project idea as far as being a rebate for communities to replace their most expensive equipment in their fleet. Traditionally, it's the sewer cleaners, street sweepers, and also your ladder trucks, your ladder fire trucks. And it was not well received as far as what the consultant had identified as far as projects and
This is not well received by
state items.
state.
And I think because the fire trucks don't get a lot of mileage, so they're not used a lot. And the other concern, I think, like in the past, we were doing compressed natural gas, and you don't necessarily want that right next to a fire. So fire trucks are a awkward application, I think, at this point.
But it's needed.
It's needed.
Nevertheless, just like your street sweepers and your sewer cleaners.
Is there some way that perhaps locally we could contact the fire chiefs, maybe a grouping of them, so that you can talk to them and explain how they might benefit themselves? So that we can do a grassroots type thing?
The only way that would be to do that would be submit application to the NSA.
There's an association of
Well, we know-
volunteer fire departments. Couldn't you have something, a presentation at one of those meetings or
So
something?
Very
it's been-
specifically for this, I don't think that would work, but we could talk about putting in the Green Fleet's work plan for next year, some outreach to volunteer fire.
Right, and we have done that, but it's more focused on light duty response vehicles, not your heavy duty class A.
Yeah.
trucks.
We can.
Because there's not an electric fire truck.
I just wondered, maybe we could get a couple of fire chiefs together.
Absolutely.
Maybe you and
Yeah.
I could talk to them and see, maybe they have some good ideas.
Mhm.
rather than doing something.
And I would love to put an application in there to help out those that are in the most need for emergency response vehicles, absolutely.
I think, so the only place I know that wildfire has been coming up a lot as a climate change risk, because that's been coming up a lot with regards to Gary. And IDEM and concern about wildfires. And so we could look more into that. It might be a climate mitigation measure. It is improving the fire capacity, fire department
Yeah,
capacity.
fresh
That's
air.
what's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Moving right along.
yes, does anybody have another question about that? Is Charles still here? Did he fall asleep? As you may know or may not know, NERC allocates federal funds to local government transportation projects. This committee has a few projects that we use for. And Charles is going to talk about that, what's coming up next.
Take it away, Charles.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I gave everybody a couple sheets. One sheet is the rules of our projects. And the other sheet is just mainly just to give you the timeline. So every year in the fall, or I should say every other year, even number of years in the fall, we offer a NOFA, a Notice of Funding Availability, or Notice of Funding Opportunity as it's on the agenda, but it's actually availability. If you look if you go to our website, you can see, or actually Kathy put on the actual application. Now, that application hasn't been updated.
Yeah, there's the old ones.
Those are the old one from 2023, 2022, 2023. We are currently updating that application. Kathy had mentioned something about putting together a group to look at the air quality and the environmental applications from this group, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much going to all of the capital committees and giving the same spiel. I've talked with land use. I've also talked with, we've done a little bit of talking in general about the whole process. But every year, it's basically the same application, but we just kind of tweak it and kind of plug the holes that we see in the Swiss cheese. But anyway, if you want, we could meet and talk about the applications, the air quality and the environmental applications. Afterwards, I do need to mention that we as staff are going to look at them and kind of look at how they apply, how the NOFA, how we get projects that support our TIP and support our long-range transportation plan, because ultimately, everything that we do has to support our long-range transportation plan. And we have to make sure, everything's got to support that. And it filters down, like I said, it goes through our long-range transportation plan, then it goes to our TIP, which is our transportation improvement program, and then the NOFA puts projects into that TIP. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about our NOFA process. Like I said, there is a The timeline is on on the first page, and then we have some general rules. Basically, the general rules are the same across for any of the projects. They don't change generally too much, we just kind of plug some holes, and then the applications themselves also, we just change those, we just tweak those every year, every 2 years, instead of plug any holes.
What's the timeline, Charlotte, when we did this last?
So NERC will open the new applications on in October.
Okay.
So we need to have if we want to change the EMPC scoring for air quality, carbon reduction, Protect, which is the climate resilience, or a couple of the environmental ones like vegetation management and stormwater. I would say we need to have that done by August.
At the latest.
At the latest.
At the latest.
Probably sooner. So, but I think as we've examined this, I don't necessarily want to do that on this, the committee as a whole, because maybe we can do one of the off Thursdays where we don't have an EMPC meeting and just have whoever wants to work specifically on the NOFA, come and talk about that. So how are we gonna select, if people can apply for construction projects, they can also apply for planning grants. I think that could be a great for the sustainability commissions who want to do a climate plan. They could apply to a planning grant to do climate. Do we have climate planning or just the Protect Resilience planning?
It could be climate, but that could also be part of your comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
For the LPAs, the local agencies.
So
These are, for our NOFA, cities and towns are only eligible to apply for this. So you would apply, you would work with your local city or town on the applications.
or counties can apply.
Counties can apply too.
When we did this the last time, did you do volunteers or send a note out and ask
I
us?
think we did.
Because I remember the discussion about having it on the alternate date on a Thursday. But if you leave it open, some days, some people will show up, some days the others.
Yeah.
You need to have a group that's
I
gonna come.
meant to ask Laura to make a sign-up sheet and I forgot, so, that's my fault. We will.
In case anybody didn't
Here.
get this, this is the document that Carol gave.
Change that to,
The timeline.
no, working group.
Can you resend what it is we did the last time and agreed to?
Well, that's the links are to the 2 applications from last time are on the agenda.
Those are our scoring documents?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you would like to be on that review, so I'm not sure, I need to check. We don't have one next, so we can do it next, we could just say March. Would it be March 8th?
7, sorry.
And we usually just set a hard cap,
Yeah.
like 1 hour or an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then if we need to schedule another one after that, we can schedule another one after that. And
Right.
anybody can participate in that.
Yeah.
You don't have to be
Yeah. you don't have to be on
municipality or.
March 7th is that huge, big educational program in Elkhart.
Okay, so let's not do March 7th, so April.
Well, we could
Is
do
April
it.
a meeting? Okay, I need to check my calendar before I make up a date,
Yeah.
so.
Our next meeting, June 2nd.
Okay, here, so April might work. The first Thursday in April,
4th, it looks like today.
okay, April 4th,
Yeah,
9 a.m.
my calendar is blocked out for the EMPC workshop to be adjourned.
all right. There it is.
Okay.
All right, great. April 4th, which is a Thursday, or what day of the week is that?
Thursday.
At same time, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
EMPC workshop.
No, working group, yep.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Charles. All right, moving right along, a reminder that the Gary Public Library and Cultural Center community room will be the location for the IDA meeting, public meeting
It's at 6.
at 6 tonight.
Serving dinner?
Further information on that? Announcements, are there any announcements?
I have a couple, okay. On March the 8th, the NISWAG group will be hosting a training for all contractors and developers that work within your community to get them certified for construction site inspections. And I will be sending that agenda out as soon as I can get my computer running. What we do is we send this to the municipalities. They send it to their contractors and developers that work in their community. We're also sending it to the association to get it out there. Last year, we had 250 contractors that work in the Lake Porter and LaPorte area. So this is required under the permit that we train them. So instead of each municipality having to train their contractors, I put this together and it's all one, and they can all.
Where is that located?
It'll be at the Maryville Dean White Community Center. We've changed the time it starts because contractors said this. It starts at 7 in the morning and goes till about 12:30. We provide breakfast, and we're still at a point where we're keeping it at no cost, and that's my goal. I don't want them to have to pay. So we have sponsors and things that help cover the cost. The Indiana Toll Road is going to help cover some big parts of the cost. So that's that. Get that on your calendar. You could come, and it's on indianams4.org. The other date is May the 13th and 14th. This is the 16th annual MS4 annual meeting in Plainfield at the Embassy Suites. We have Monday a workshop. 3 workshops go on, the training for Hoosier River Watch. Iden will do a day-long plan review site inspections, and then we have another training for all new elected officials. We're getting the help of the State County Commissioners Association to get that information out there. And then Tuesday the 14th is the annual meeting, and there are all kinds of incredible topics that we'll look at long-term planning, sensible growth, and how you work with stormwater. So those are the 2 big dates. Plus, this first Tuesday of every month, we do NISWAG. If you want to be on that email list, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there, Ryan?
Thank you. So there's going to be a grant opportunity coming up next month. It's called the EPA Clean Ports Program. It's $3 billion. That's with a B. And it's focused on climate and air quality planning. And 90% of the funding is going to go to zero emission of hydrogen and electric technology. So the ports are all the steel mills, not just Burns Harbor proper. So there's a lot of opportunities, and then even some of the rail yards are going to be considered a land port, if you will. So this funding would be 80 to 90%. Very, very attractive opportunity. The EPA Clean School Bus rebate is due on February 14th. That is $340,000 per electric school bus and $35,000 for propane school buses. There will be a final round of VW settlement funding coming out. There's roughly $4 million available, and that is pretty much it for right now.
Now, you've done a lot of school buses. How many do you think is it realistic to look at with this funding? How many can we get? Different, each school corporation does it separately?
So each school corporation can get up to a maximum of 25 buses.
Okay.
But a electric school bus is $430,000. So from an economies of scale standpoint, that's a lot of dough that these schools don't have.
How much is propane? Or propane, natural gas, what is it?
Propane is going to be very similar to the cost of gasoline and diesel, by around $150,000. Talking 72 passenger buses.
So what amount of that does the grant cover?
The grant is just a flat rate. if you're a prioritized school, it's $345,000 per electric school bus,
Okay,
and then $35,000 for propane school buses.
okay.
So prioritized schools are more likely to receive funding. However, there's a total of $500 million available, and it is a good opportunity. And thank you for the shout out. Report. Facebook.
So the private contracted out school buses can't do it, right?
So, I can't say that. The majority of funding has gone to private school contractors, not directly to the school districts.
Oh,
Take that for what it's worth. So, yes, we are applying for a lot of schools in
Oh.
Mercy territory.
when we've tried to do, because the private school bus operators that serve Northwest Indiana are located out of Illinois, right? So that's why we can never give them our money,
Right.
because they might drive the buses, out of the state.
So we're applying for a private school contractor that works for Steel City Tar Schools.
Okay, when you're looking at the identified particular areas, do you look outside of the environmental justice areas and looking at the rural bus areas too?
Yeah, I think we've had more success with the rural and utilizing propane than, urbanized schools going electric.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other additional announcements? Hearing none, the next, oh,
I already
okay,
made one for Green
Oh,
Heights. but I-
okay, do you want to continue?
Yeah, if I can finish.
Yes, please.
That's happening at 6:30 PM this evening. You can join via Facebook, Save the Dunes page. Also, we have a link for a Zoom meeting, but you probably have to get that from me. So my email is nancy.vision@gmail.com. And I'll send that to you before the meeting tonight so you can join. Our speaker is going to be the Public Policy Director from HEC. So he's been in the State House all week long, and he should be giving us, the most up-to-date information. And I actually haven't met him yet, but I heard he's a wonderful guy. His name is David, and he's had a lot of experience in the area of the environment. So I expect to do a very good presentation.
See Tim's replacement?
Yeah, he is Tim Mahoney's replacement. So anyhow, you're invited to join on it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anyone? Are there any additional comments? Hearing none. The next EMTC meeting is scheduled for May 2nd, 2024 at 9:00 a.m. at this location. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
I think,
And you have my information?